Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, let's discuss the automation testing interview questions and answers with some code samples. Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting video, so please don't skip. Please watch to till the end of this video, and I'll discuss at very high level since I already covered detailed answers in the PDF. Okay, if you need this PDF, I have given a link in the description and also in the comment section. Please explore. Okay, so let's get started. So the initial section of interview questions are with respect to the Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so what are the types of weights available in Selenium currently? So they are implicit weight, explicit weight, and fluent weight. And you can see I have given a sample example to understand all of this with a definition. Okay, and can you explain the difference between find element and find elements method? Okay, so where I find element method returns a single web element and throws no such element exception if the element is not found, whereas find elements returns a list of web elements and returns empty list if no elements are found. Okay, and no exceptions are thrown. That's the core difference between find element and find elements. I have given a syntax on how a find element and find elements should be represented in a code. Okay, please do check out. Okay, so and the next question is about what are XPath and CSS locator? When would you use each? Okay, so XPath and CSS locator both are locators in Selenium. Okay, and you can expect a counter questions like when to use the CSS selector and when to use the XPath. Okay, and what is the benefit of XPath over CSS locator selector, and what is the benefit of CSS selector over XPath? You have to be ready with both the questions. Okay, how would you handle dynamic web elements or elements with frequently changing IDs? This is a scenario based interview question. Okay, where you can do that by using a partial attribute matching and by using a relative XPath based on text content, and by using a WebDriver weight with custom expected conditions, and by using explicit weights before the interaction with the element. Okay. Can you explain the page object model pattern and its advantages? As we know, page object model is a design pattern that represents each web page as a Java class. Okay, so this is a sample structure, okay, for a sample page object model class. Okay, and the advantages of page object model is it helps in the improving of maintainability and it reduces the code duplication. That's the core advantage, and there are other advantages like better readability, and there are separation of concerns with respect to the test logic and UI interactions. So you can explore my PDF. And the next interview question is about what is the difference between actions class and direct element methods? Okay, how do you, and the next question is about how do you handle stale element reference exception and when do you get the stale element reference exception? So for each question, when you answer, interviewer will expect the counter question. So please thorough end to end whatever you are learning. Okay, and next interview question is explain the different locator strategies and their reliability order. Okay, again, yeah, types of locators and which one needs to be selected first and last and which one has to give the precedence. Okay, so we have discussed all this. In the next question, what are the differences between driver.navigate and driver.get and driver.switch to? Okay, so tricky question. So try to understand this with a code example and also try to explain. Okay. The next question is about how do you handle pop-ups, alerts and browser dialogues? Okay. The next question is about what is implicit weight versus explicit weight versus fluent weight. We have already discussed the definition, but here they are expecting the proper code, so try to answer. Okay, here I think the code has been synced up, so after each bar you try to segregate. Okay, in the PDF it will be written correct. Okay, I mean it will be segregated properly. The next question is about how do you take screenshot and generate the visual reports in Selenium. Okay, as we know, we have a take screenshot interface in Selenium, so and also get screenshot as method. So using that we'll capture the screenshot and we use file utils.copy file for storing the file. Okay, this is a sample code step by step to understand how the things work. Okay, and the next question is about explain how to handle SSL certificate errors in Selenium. Okay, by using Chrome options for Chrome, by using Firefox options for Firefox, by using Edge options for Edge, and by using desired capabilities for Internet Explorer. Okay, and then next question is about how do you perform keyboard and mouse interactions using Selenium. Okay, you have to be aware of all the commonly um working commands. Okay, and next question is about what is the difference between switch to methods and how do you switch between frames and windows. Okay, they might expect you to write this JavaScript in the interview, so you have to be thorough and ready with it. Okay, the next question is about how do you handle file uploads and downloads in Selenium. Okay, again there are multiple ways and sample code has been written for each. Okay, the next question is about what are the expected conditions in Selenium WebDriver. Wait and give 5 example. Okay, there are many multiple methods under the expected conditions. You can explore more. Okay, and how do you execute JavaScript in Selenium. Okay, you know, right? So JavaScript is mainly used for capturing the element attribute, for scrolling to an element, for scrolling to the top or bottom of the page, and highlighting the element, getting the text content, waiting for Ajax completion. So so many and multiple advantages of using JavaScript executor. Okay, the next question is explain the headless browser testing and its advantages or disadvantages. Okay, so can explore more. All these are straightforward questions. How do you manage test data and environment configuration in Selenium automation? Okay. The next question is about, sorry, the next section is about core Java. Okay, so these are the commonly asked interview questions. You have to be thorough with this. Explain the OOPS concepts, especially encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Okay, can explain with a code sample. Okay, and then next, what are the differences between static and non-static members? Okay, explain the exception hierarchy in Java and how to handle the exceptions. Okay, okay, you can use try catch, finally try with multiple catch blocks. Okay, so many options are there. Guys, while copy pasting the tabular or preparing the tabular in Word sheet and then converting to the PDF format, it gets combined. Okay, so while when I have uploaded the right one in the interview preparation kit, so you can use that document. Okay, so the next question is about what is the difference between checked and unchecked exceptions. What's the difference between string builder and string buffer? Again, what are the access modifiers in Java and their scope? Explain the interfaces and abstract classes, when to use each. What is a method overloading and method overriding? Can you provide the examples? What is the final keyword and its use case? Can you explain the concept of pass by value and pass by reference in Java? Okay. What are constructors? Explain default, parameterized and copy constructors. Explain this and super keywords. What is the instance of operator and how is it used? Explain the memory management, garbage collection and memory leaks in Java. What are wrapper classes and auto boxing and auto unboxing? What is the difference between equal to and dot equals method in Java? Equal operator and dot equals method. Okay. See everything, it's written in the code format. So try to understand the code and then you demonstrate in the interview. Okay. So explain the concept of immutability and how to create immutable classes. Okay. What are generics in Java? How do they ensure type safety? What is the difference between hash map and hash table? Can you explain the lambda function expressions and functional interfaces at very high level? Okay. In the section 3, we have discussed about the Java collections framework. Okay. We have, we will use collections mostly in automation frameworks. And can you explain the collection hierarchy and the difference between collection and collections is the first question here. Explain the difference between array list, linked list and vector and when to use each. Explain hash set, tree set and linked hash set with differences. Explain the tree map, hash map and linked hash map with practical examples. Explain comparable and comparator interfaces with example. Explain the iterator and how to remove elements while iterating. Explain the fail fast and fail safe iterators. What is the difference between collection.stream and collection.parallel stream? Explain queue, dequeue and priority dequeue with examples. Explain map.entry and how to iterate over map with different methods. What's the difference between fail fast and fail safe collections? This has been already explained in the question number 47, but we are expanding this for completeness, okay, with additional information. Explain the stream of API operations, filter, map, flat map, reduce and collect, okay. What are the differences between array and array list? Okay. Explain the differences between list, set, map. Explain collectors class and its common methods. The next set of interview questions are with respect to the test ng. What is a test ng and how does it differ from JUnit? Okay, so you can see with respect to the test ng and JUnit, you can see we have segregated with the annotations, we have segregated with the multiple parameters. Okay, code sample. And can you explain the test ng annotations at before class, before method, after class and after method? Okay, what is test annotation and its attributes? Explain the invocation count, timeout and expected exceptions. Explain the test ng assertions and how they differ from standard assertions. What is a data provider in TestNG and how to use it for parameterization? What is TestNG XML configuration file and how to run the tests? Explain TestNG listeners and how to implement custom listeners. Explain test grouping and how to run specific test groups. Explain the parallel execution in TestNG and how to configure it. Okay. Explain the test dependency in TestNG. Okay. Depends on methods and depends on groups. You have to explain both. Okay. In the previous question, I have just mentioned only about the depends on methods. Okay. If they specifically ask about depends on groups, so please try to mention that in the same in the interview. Okay. Explain, I mean, please try to mention about the TestNG groups as well in the interview. Okay, and let's get started with the next question. How to generate test reports and integrate with reporting tools. Okay. Explain the soft assertions and hard assertions in TestNG. What are the attributes of data provider annotation? Okay. How to skip tests in TestNG? Can you explain the at the rate test enabled equal to false annotation and skip execution? Explain the before suite, after suite, before test and after test annotations. What are the attributes of at test annotation? Explain priority, groups and always run. Okay, and the next set of interview questions are with respect to the Cucumber BDD. So what is a Cucumber and BDD? Explain the Gherkin syntax with the example. Guys, basically when I take the interviews, I ask all these questions along with code samples. So that is the reason have already mentioned the code samples. Okay. And the next question is about explain step definitions and how to create them. What are hooks in Cucumber? Explain before and after. And similarly, there are two other hooks, before hook and after hook. Learn about that one also. Can you explain the tags in Cucumber and how to run the specific tags? What are data tables in Cucumber and how to use them? Can you explain the scenario outline and examples in Cucumber? Okay. Can you explain the Cucumber runner class and its configuration? Okay. How to implement background keyword in Cucumber feature files? Okay. Explain different ways to pass parameters in Cucumber step definitions. Explain the Cucumber reports and how to integrate with reporting tools. How to skip scenarios in Cucumber. Explain world context or context object in Cucumber. How to implement parallel execution in Cucumber. Explain the step definition best practices and how to create maintainable step definitions. And the next set of interview questions is about REST API automation. What is a REST API and its principles? Explain the REST assured library, like what you know about REST assured library and its basic structure. Okay, and what does it contain? Okay, you can see we have taken example of get, post, put, delete and explain. Okay, can you explain the different HTTP status codes and their messages and their meanings? Okay, so here you can see, right? So 200 means it's success. Okay, request successful is the expected response. 201 means success, created a resource at, resource has been created. 204 means success again, but no content has been returned. Okay, similarly 400 and then 500 series. Okay, here you can see a sample code on how to use the status codes. And the next question is about the JSON and XML response passing in rest assured on how to do that. Okay, everything is code specific, guys. Interviewer will definitely ask from code per point of view. So that is the reason I have mentioned everything in coding format. Okay, how to handle request or response headers and authentication in rest assured. How to validate JSON schema in REST API tests. How to test API with the different content types, JSON, XML, form data. Explain the parameterization and data-driven testing in REST API tests. How to handle API request or response logging in REST assured. Okay. How to handle timeout, retries and error scenarios in API testing. Explain the SOAP API testing and how it is different from REST assured or REST API testing. Okay, and these are the common framework related design and best practices that needs to be followed, and they can ask these type of interview questions. Explain the concept of test automation framework architecture. What does it mean, it should contain, and what are the common framework components in almost all the framework? What does it need to include and what it should not have? So, and what are the best practices to be followed? Okay, along with code samples I have derived. What is the difference between, what is the page object model and why it is important? Okay, explain CI/CD integration with test automation frameworks. Okay, this is a Jenkins pipeline. They will not ask this question, but still we have included, okay, for understanding. What are the best practices for creating scalable and maintainable test automation framework? Okay, so see, you can see the code structure, right? See, like this it should be, and it is followed in most of the organization. Okay, and what are the different types of components and best practices that we need to follow? I have included everything, so please do check out. So, and the next question is about, again, how to implement cross browser testing with a code sample. Okay, can use Chrome options or Edge options. Okay, how to implement test environment management. How to implement custom assertions and validations. How to implement reporting with screenshots and logs. How to handle test data management and test data cleanup. Okay, so That's all I had for this call. So please do check out for this PDF in the interview preparation kit I have given in the description and also in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview. Stay tuned for more updates. Happy learning, happy testing. Thank you.